how her parents feel about her or what they're willing to do. She's already demonstrated, well, this is how far I'm willing to go when it comes to my kid. And that has to be understood, considering all the stuff that happened before that, outside of the kid being mentioned, where Cardi didn't respond. Cardi was still out there making music, doing events.
Having fun, chilling.
Exactly. That's it. So, I mean, you reap what you sow. And when you sow more than you can reap, well, that's when you STFU. Just saying.
And I can dig that, man. Especially when we talk about, teaching young people conflict. And I do believe that there's a space for violence in conflict resolution. That's not to say that that's the first avenue, but there's a time where, when applied properly, violence is the only way to solve a problem.
Cool, man.
I know we sound kind of crazy and sociopathic right now.
No,
but
I'm glad you said that, because I'm going to use that exact phrase later, and I already know how I'm going to use it. But go ahead.
Yeah, but when you have someone, sometimes words just aren't getting it done, especially when someone doesn't get the message. And if someone that we're going across one time, and I need you to stop doing something, and me asking you to keep stop doing it, you obviously don't listen. So I'm going to force your hand.
Yeah.
One way or the other, this is going to cease. We can fight. If I lose, you're still going to realize that that there's going to be some real life consequences to your words.
Man.
Or if I beat the brakes off of you, you're going to learn again, and it's like, it's the wrong one. You can't talk like that to everybody. And we're not to say we're not bullies, not any of that, but there's something to be said about someone who's ready to defend the honor of themselves, their families, their principles, to the death if need be,
Yep. I think, man, bruh, you should have been on a pulpit on that one, man.
I mean, there's people probably listening right now saying that sounds crazy as shit now.
No, because that is the perfect segue. And don't worry, if they feel like you sound any type of way, they're about to feel a lot worse about me, right?
I know I can say this to you, and you know exactly what I mean.
No, because that is a perfect segue. In fact, to either topic. But I'm going to start with old boy being shot in his apartment, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not as vocal as a lot of people when it comes to racial issues in the U.S. simply because I've been abroad so much. And when I see stuff in other countries like sectarian violence or violence due to the racism or any of this other stuff, it's humbling because I understand that the U.S. is such a young nation, and I know that a lot of the issues that we claim to be the world lead on, we're not making major strides in, nor are we going to in the next 100, 200, 300 years. Because it took all these countries, however long to get to where they at. But it hit me so hard in this specific incident because here you have, there's no way you can find anything where this man did anything to this officer to provoke his death. And yet he's being smeared. Yet y'all want to say, it's marijuana in his apartment. Such a minute amount just to tarnish his name. And I'm sitting here because also during this time frame, ironically, was Dave Chappelle's birthday. Ironically, right? So this clip comes up that I see online of Dave Chappelle saying, I don't want to call the cops because even in my own home, they would bust in and think I don't live there. Kill me and then be like, I've seen this before. He broke in and put up pictures of himself all over the place. All we got to do is sprinkle a little crack on him.
Yes. Sprinkle a little crack on him.
Sprinkle a little crack on him. So I'm sitting here and I'm looking at this and I'm thinking about human nature, ironically. A lot of stuff is just very psychology based with me. So I'm looking at human nature and I'm looking back through history, right? So everything, whether people like it or not, especially when it comes to the U.S., is provoked by one or two things. Change is always provoked by violence or money. That's just how the U.S. is. As long as people are being peaceful. And I might go so far as say that's how the world is. As long as people are being peaceful, they'll let you protest. They'll let you do whatever you're going to do because it's only going to last so long before it ends. And on top of that, technically, if you're being peaceful, you're not causing any harm, which means they can beat, do whatever, treat you any kind of way, and you're good to go. And this is a prime example of that. Like the people that peacefully protested this incident are still in prison. The officer that gunned down an innocent man is walking free. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, all right. So then I had to get into I had to kind of put my work hat on and look at some of the backstory and look at, really look at all the declassified documents when it comes to MLK and Malcolm X and everything else that's been released to the public at this point, so I can discuss this. But MLK was once considered the most dangerous man in America, right? Not because he was actually dangerous, but because of his power to unite and move people against a cause. As long as he was peaceful, he was good to go. Later on in life, when he himself said that he felt like his "I Have a Dream" speech was naive, and he had set up meetings with Malcolm X, and he was saying, this route ain't gonna work, we need to go to another route. A couple of weeks later, he died. You know what I mean? A couple of weeks later, he died. So let's even take that. MLK's death, a violent action. Change immediately followed because of who MLK was, right? So you had to do something because you've angered a mass population. And no, you might not have a war on your hands, but you got to do something to appease the population. And it always happened like that. So it takes something negative and almost violent for people to unite around, and then a violent action usually follows in some sort, and then change happens as a mitigating issue, right? So the boycott didn't happen to buses just because for no reason. Rosa Parks sat down. Maybe just because Rosa Parks didn't feel like she wanted to move. Yeah. She was forcefully removed. Whether she intended to cause, the what followed or the boycotting the buses, no one knows. But it was seized by the civil rights movement. It was pivotal. They protested, right? But you always got to have that negative sparks. You know what I'm saying? That starts something else that leads to something else. And it goes back to almost exactly what you said. Peace only works until it doesn't.
Yes.
And then something has to happen. And it's always one of them situations where it's still exactly like you said. Either you fight and you lose, but they know, okay, something still has to change because either way, both sides took losses and this is no longer going to be tolerated. Or you fight and you win. Because especially looking under the current administration and the world at large, people are driven by a certain amount of fear. And whether people realize it or not, and they hate to admit it, we've been in a subconscious civil war since Barack Obama was elected president, right? So people were forced into sides where either you support him or you're against him. And just because of the nature of the fact that he was mixed or black or whatever you want to say, everyone had to ask everybody else, not out loud, but subconsciously, are you against him because you don't like his policies, or are you against him because he's black? And I'm always one of them people where all right, I don't agree with some of Obama policies, but man, what is your purpose? I know what mine is, and I can defend mine, logically. If I ask you to defend yours and you have nothing and you start grasping at straws, you just told me exactly how you feel. Right? And America is one of the only nations where a man can be gunned down in his apartment for doing nothing. And the police instantly start reaching for ways to make the victim look like the criminal. Yep. And nothing has been said about the actual person that committed the act. So I'm saying, I'm I don't comprehend this. And at the same time, I'm sitting there and I'm looking when you look at what people are posting on Facebook and social media, and I hate to even say it, there's only a very minute portion of African Americans that care. The rest of y'all don't actually give a fuck. I mean, it's just the reality of it. You ain't uniting behind shit. You uniting behind the football season, whatever meme is going up. You know, and I'm sitting here and I'm like, all right, you don't actually want change, right? Because change takes work, right? Change takes struggle. Change takes a lot of stuff that people don't want to do. And that by itself goes back to what you said. If you're not willing to risk the ultimate maximum price, which people have absolutely paid for us to even be where we're at right now, then you don't want change bad enough. You absolutely just don't want change. Because I automatically know, and I can say this without a benefit of a doubt, and I can be quoted, and I'm not even the least bit afraid to say it. If you were to take my son, my brother, my stepdad, Rich or Trey, you can declare the country at war. I'm not coming for somebody. I'm coming for everybody. I mean, seriously, I'm coming for whatever law allowed somebody to do it and get away with it. I'm gonna make sure I go after that first, because that's clearly needs to change. I mean, prime example: stand your ground in Florida. If it applies to one person, it should apply to everybody equally, right? If stand your ground is a law, it should be fine. If it allows somebody close to me to be murdered, I'm coming for the law. It needs to change. Yeah. Once I have changed the law, I'm coming for whoever committed that, whether it's a police officer or who else. You know what I'm saying? Like, I might need to get a lawyer and commit a legal lawsuit, whatever, yada, yada, whatever it may be. And then I'm going to turn around and make sure that my son is good and all my bills are actually paid off. And then I'm coming for your motherfucking life.
And that's how I'm going to get it.
Exactly. In that order. Because I already know that it's going to take me risking everything that I have and everything that I am for my point to get across. That this is not okay. I will not stand for it. I'm not standing behind no podium and giving no speeches. I'm not expressing my grieving emotions to the rest of the world that don't share my emotions, most of which we're not even going to care. I'm going to go dead silent and make people feel it in ways that they have never felt before. And I will single-handedly rock the nation. Because, I mean, me personally, I am one of them dudes that crazy enough to believe that I can change the world. I just have not been perpetuated into a situation where I feel that it's necessary. Because I got a son back there that I love to do, and he is my primary concern. But any of those lines cross, like, it's all or nothing. Either you're willing to do it or you're not. But, like I said, I've been on a rant. I'm sure people going to hate me more than y'all hate Rich for saying what he said. But, I mean, that's just really, really how I feel. Like, either you got to be willing to risk it all, or, I mean, don't even speak up. Like, people only protest and be upset for so long, and then everybody else after that is, you know, they memeing this and memeing that and betting people ain't gonna steal a status, or, you know, like, what the fuck are you doing? Like really, what do you actually care about? Because soon as something happens, you're gonna complain, but you weren't willing to do nothing to change it.
Yeah, these shotgun activists, you know, in an uproar for a week and then back to normal. And it's about what does anything really mean to you? I think what it really comes down to. And I think in all of our lives we have, like, whatever assets we have, whatever relationships we have, it's important to know what that all means to you, because at the end of the day, that helps you decide what you're willing to put on the line to preserve it. And that I think people don't ask those questions to themselves when you start talking about, you know, relationships and, you know, you've been left and, you know, a job you're losing, you know, something happens to your car. I mean, how important is it really to you? Yeah. I think the problem is people ascribe, you know, high ratings to too many things, to the point that if one goes out, then the rest of the world is down. Yep. Sometimes that damn boyfriend or girlfriend ain't shit. You know, but you put them next to your best friend, so you think you lose them, you think your world's over. Yeah. Sometimes people go too hard for things that don't mean that much to them, and they know it doesn't really mean that much to them. That's why when they go out for it, they end up, you know, failing and looking like fools and regretting it. Mm-hmm. Understand what your principles are. Understand, you know. Like, you have your things you love, but if something that you hold dearly is jeopardized, then you have to